Joy and happiness are not the same thing. And in fact, the Bible tells us about the joy of the Lord that goes far beyond our current circumstances. And that all sounds great, but I'm guessing that some of you go, okay, how do I get that? How do I get that joy that passes all circumstances? How do I get that? Because what I think you just said, Greg, is you were like in a pit and you said some magical prayer and then all of a sudden you had the joy of the Lord, and I'm not buying that. Well, that is true. That is true. The good news is that you don't have to get joy at all. You don't have to get joy at all, because when you get Jesus, joy just comes along with it. If you get Jesus, last point today, you will get joy. Every time. It's a package deal. Do you know that Hebrews calls Jesus the author and perfecter of your faith? It actually calls him an author. If we go back to those sort of story arcs and remember the tragedies and the comedies, it says Jesus is an author and he's in the business of writing stories. But last time I checked, the story that the American culture was telling us at the box office was the future of our story. It looked a lot like tragedy. Post-apocalyptic movies, Hunger Games, all these movies where the world is ending, it's going to hell in a handbasket, and it's every man for himself. And if we're honest, something in us goes, yeah, that's probably the way my story ends, if I'm honest. And actually, it couldn't be further from the truth, because Jesus is an author, and the only stories he authors have happy endings every time. Every time. The only tragedies that God ever writes into his story are the tragedies that he can redeem. They're one and the same. Jesus is obsessed with your joy. He's absolutely obsessed with it. Do you know that the Bible calls Jesus a vine? It calls him a vine. Look at this in John 15. It says, I'm the vine, and you are the branches. Whoever abides in me and I in him, he it is that bears much fruit. Fruit, remember that. These things I have spoken to you, that my joy may be in you, and that your joy may be made full. Full. Westside, I don't remember, or I don't know for you what Jesus looked like as you were first informed by him, but I know a lot of people who joy and Jesus just do not fit in the same sentence. And Jesus is obsessed with your joy. Later on, the Bible goes out and names these fruits that happen when we attach ourselves to Jesus and fruit just starts popping off of us. The number one, you could probably guess, is love. Love happens when we connect ourselves to Jesus. Number two, fruit of the 12, joy. Joy says every time you get someone who connects themselves to Jesus, things are just going to start to happen, and one of those things is they're going to have incredible joy. Here's my main point today. My main point today is that when we get Jesus, we will get joy. And so many times, all we have to do is look at him. Look at him. But see, the thing is we all came in here with things that were like magnets for our eyes, that were taking our fears and our anxieties and our worries. They're taking up our brain space. And to be honest, they're just robbing us of our joy. And our eyes can't help but to stare at them. But so many times, God has a promise. He says, hey, when you're starting to get robbed of your joy, I'm going to give you an opportunity to just lift your eyes up and look at me. Because the best type of joy, the type of joy that never goes away, is only found in my son Jesus. And when you look at Jesus, you will get joy.